Welcome to the Silicon Talk Show. My name is Wouter Garot. I'm the founder of Silicon. I started the company 42 years ago. I will be inviting different guests from time to time to discuss different subject matters. My first guest is going to be Jerome Garot, my son, who has also been supporting us in the projects around the world, and who's also accumulated a lot of information and data and experience that we can share with all our guests in the coming period.
All right, so you heard it. My name is Jerome Garot, son of Wouter Garot. I've been with Silicon for 16 years, and today we'll talk a little bit about the industry, what we do, what he does, what we have done, and take it from there.
Okay,
take the first one.
So, Jerome, I have a question.
Okay.
You have installed our SpeedHex3 solutions. Those have now a 9-year return on experience. Could you tell us what problems they are solving in the FCC unit?
Okay, well, it's a very specific one to start off on. SpeedHex, first for some context for our listeners, is a product that is solving some of the very technical problems that an FCC is running into, and that's habitual failures of abrasion-resistant linings. And what it solves is the problem of unreliability in equipment that should be reliable. And with that means that you're going to get more predictable lifetimes for your vessels. And if it's designed for a 4 to 5 year run, you're going to get 4 to 5 years. And that's it in a nutshell.
And how's the acceptance been in the market about our product? Has it been?
Well, everything that's new is always a bit of a culture shock, a big risk for everybody. So it's always looked at with, and rightfully so, with a skeptic eye, but less over time, because as one thing goes well, the next one goes well, and the next one seems to go well, then there's very little for people to say, I'm still skeptical, and it's quite quick now for people to become a quick believer. Because the theory makes sense, and now the practice has shown that that theory panned out, which is always a good combination for success. Okay. Who's who has been, or who is your favorite employee?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, because I look at the productivity of the people. What do they produce? Those are my favorite employees. Yeah, the ones that contribute to the expansion of the company, and who contribute to the innovation of products, and who advance the company as such. I remember one of my first employees, Fulco. He was somebody that fitted exactly into that category. He was innovative, he designed a lot of stuff, he was very productive in what he was doing, and he brought us to a very far stage in the development of the welding machine. It was because of him that we are at the stage that we are now with the machine. So he was one of my favorite employees, definitely, but unfortunately he's not with us anymore.
All right, on to the next one. To Wouter. Has the way the refractory experts are looking at anchors evolved in the last 40 years?
I would say so. I can remember when I started, it wasn't very aware, people were not aware that there was a technology in refractory anchoring. They were not aware about the design, they were not aware about the metallurgy. Anchors were very basic. V anchors or flat anchors were the only ones that are being used. And what we did is we made people more aware that there is a technology in the design and the metallurgy of refractory anchors. So as we went around explaining this to our customers, the awareness grew, and from there I think designs also changed and people started to think with it. But we still have a lot of work to do. In Europe, it's pretty well known now. People are very well aware of anchors. My goal is to make sure that everybody in the refractory industry understands the importance of refractory anchors. So you have to look at the application, and if you are familiar with the application, you know what the corrosion activities are in that environment. You know the temperatures. You can choose the right alloy. You can actually design the right anchoring system for that application to ensure long-lasting lifetime.
I think the very interesting thing about why refractory experts have also been late to change is because with the expertise in the refractory expertise scenario there, I mean it's a very aged industry, so there's a lot of years, a lot of experience, but it's transcended between a time when asbestos was still around and the non-asbestos period, the non-golden age, so to speak, because it is asbestos that was very well performing. So I think because the refractory was so good at that time, I think anchors was always a topic that wasn't so taken seriously because the asbestos would pretty much do 90% of the job. But now that the refractories are no longer asbestos containing, the balance and the importance of an anchor suddenly becomes on par with the uniqueness of the refractory compositions.
So, what is the smallest space you've ever welded in?
Smallest space I've ever welded in? For me, it was one particular location in what is called a soot blower. Now what that is, honestly, I don't actually really know. It wasn't necessarily the whole space, it was the entry point. The opening was about this size, and there was only, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 people on the whole site who fit through this hole. And after having been in there, lack of ventilation and the temperature, I started getting a little bit more trouble to work in there. And first of all, so the entry, that's one thing, and then the inside was only pipes, so there was actually physically pipes there, and you only had about maybe this much space. Like your hard hat, you couldn't really turn your hard hat as well, so everything was, once you get in, you had to slide in, and then you had to move vertically or horizontally rather throughout the whole area, and you'd have to get over the pipes until you get 15 meters there with my gun, with a bucket of anchors, and with the heavy cable, and there was about 3 or 4 spots to repair. And the work was like 5 minutes, but the positioning was probably about an hour and a half. And then as I was trying to get back, you've gotten swollen, you've gotten a little bit, it got dusty because it's at the upper part of a section, so all the dust is kind of swirling around there with other people working, and so your visibility is low, your body temperature's gone up, and now I'm a bit swollen, right? I'm a bit thicker, and so I'm trying to get out, and taking all this stuff back, and it was hard to get out. I couldn't actually get out anymore. It's a groan because it's very different to get out of somewhere than it is to get in somewhere. And so I was yelling, but my colleague and the man watch, and this is a bit of a failure on their part. I was yelling at them, but from this small hole to yell out to help me pass my stuff out to get out there. And it being very windy outside, I could hear them clear as day talking, and they could just not hear me. And they were laughing, ha ha ha, and I'm sitting there, because I'm also have my full face on. Yeah. And it was a bit nightmarish, honestly. And then, so I couldn't physically get out anymore in the same direction, and even he was just trying to yank my body through. So while I was in there, again, laying complete horizontal, I had to take all my PPE harness off, because those are like metal hooks on it, and basically drag my body out of that, and then drag everything with it. And it wasn't the smallest space I worked in, but that was by far the smallest entry point and the most limited amount of moving space I had, which was again, I know why people have claustrophobia, and that's the feeling. It's like being going cave diving, which I think is also just terrifying. Yeah. That's what. To Wouter, how would you describe your legacy?
Good question. I think I've been able to change the refractory anchoring business. When I started, it was very basic. Anybody who had a machine to stamp or a bender would make the stuff. There was no science in it. There was no metallurgical knowledge about it. It was whatever someone thought that would hold refractory was being designed. I designed a codification system so that anchors could be recognizable, especially in Europe. That was quite a jungle, actually, regarding refractory anchors. I tried to make the anchors last as long as the refractory. That is actually the objective. If you're an anchor designer, you must design it such that it would last as long as a refractory. Then you have an optimum situation. If the spirit that I had originally can be continued, which is basically the mission statement and the vision statement, if that can be upheld by somebody, that spirit should continue within the company. Because if that spirit is gone, then the company will become something different. And I expect that when I'm not here anymore, that the people will embrace that original spirit, and that they will continue that, including yourself and Daniela, who will be taking over the company one day. If you can hold that spirit, then that will be, I think, a guarantee for the continuation, knowing what I originally had in mind for the customers.
I think at the forefront that what I latched onto was the concept of innovation, because it's not just actually innovative to make a new product. It's one thing. It's actually also an innovation in how you perform the repair, and it's new thinking in terms of making something last as long as possible. The innovation in parts of, yes, we do have innovative products, but we also have an innovative way to solve these problems, and a unique approach. Yes. to bring it to the customer in a quick way, in a safe way, in a high quality way, and kind of hitting the right notes on every aspect of what a good job, a high quality job is. And I think at that core is innovation, maybe at the broadest sense, and applying that, I think, was always what I thought was a good takeaway 10 plus years ago, and right. I think it's still at the forefront.
Yeah, we cannot stand still. This is, I think, the very important message. We must always see what opportunities there are on the market. The markets will change, industries will change, and we have to adapt at the same pace as the industry is changing. That way, I think we can ensure survival for the company.
When was your first experience on site?
My first experience on site was with Shell. We'd just been speaking a few weeks before about designing an alternative for hex metal, because they had so much trouble, and they already expected the FCC to come down because of all the problems that they had. And then it happened that they had to stop it because there were holes in the FCCs and everything, and they had to stop it. So that was my first time, and I went in there, and it was the first time I put on my PPE helmet. I had no idea how to put the face mask on. I was all, it was really funny because it was so strange for me to put on all this PPE. I wasn't used to it, and then combining that with the helmet and the earmuffs, and then walking, I felt like walking into this unit, so like a robot, with all the gear on. So that was my first experience. That was in September '89. I can remember that everything was with high air pressure, so all the grinding discs and everything were with air pressure. And there was one time that I must have stepped on it or something, and then the hose came loose. So there was all this air blowing all the dust in this cyclone, and I just couldn't see anything anymore. It was like totally pitch black with dust, and I got quite worried. Like, how am I going to find the end of the air pressure hose, and to connect it back to my grinder? But that was, I found it eventually, but it was quite funny. But that's what we went through in those days.
My first time on site was 2007, job in Bahrain with that furnace. Big orange coveralls, 50 Celsius, and probably from never having done a job to suddenly going into a job at 50 Celsius, that was something for sure. I was still a teenager at the time, but it was interesting to see when it's so hot. You know, the Germans, they just go half naked and go inside the unit and do the work. I mean, it's an attestation to the safety of the product because they can be there with their shirt off. But I thought it was interesting and definitely memorable. But a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Wouter, what trends have you seen and will you see in the last 10 years and in the next 10 years in the petrochemical and the cement industry?
What I'm seeing is that there's a lot of decarbonization activities taking place. A lot of people are working on that, especially in the cement as well. They want to try and get a carbon neutral production. From a process point of view, it may cause more corrosion. So there'll be more demands on the refractory and the anchoring side to be able to manage this. This is what I expect. Well, this was our first episode. Like and subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments or suggestions for us or topics you would like us to discuss, just drop it down in the comments below and we can take it up in our next episodes. Thank you very much.